hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.
Hi guys, we're getting a lot of questions at the moment asking where to buy silver or gold, and of course there are many places in which you could, and this is not an endorsement, but we tend to use bullionbypost.com. They've got a wide range of gold and silver, and if you put in the code that we've listed here below, you'll get a 1 ounce silver coin on any order over £250. Very nice. Just in case our channel ever gets taken down from YouTube, which there's a possibility because we are challenging a number of things. If you go to my website, drcharlieward.co.uk, and register there, we'll keep you in touch as to what's going on. And please, as Justin always says, remember to subscribe and like and share with friends so that we can get the message out there. It's very important through a difficult time to get the truth out in a world that is not very true. Just remember, Jesus loves you, even if everybody else thinks you're a twat. Hi guys, and today I'm joined by Wendy Smith, all the way from Tiptree in Essex, a part of the world I know so well, having been brought up in Suffolk. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Lovely to be here this morning.
It's wonderful to have you here because your life has been an absolute roller coaster, and this isn't something for everybody here as to what you can do with your life when you think everything's going wrong and how you can change things in your life, isn't it?
Yep, definitely, yeah. You could say it's been challenging, to say the least.
Yeah. It is, and life is what you make it. And the medical world will tell you one thing, other people will tell you something else, but you need to look after yourself. And Wendy's a classic case of that, of not giving up on herself. Felt like she was at times, but the reality is she didn't. And look at her now.
a shining beacon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell us your story, tell us your journey, because it's an amazing story.
Okay, well, I suppose a little bit of background is always good, especially from my parents, because I grew up in a pub and my mum and dad are both very resilient people. They really are. And we grew up with, there was one saying that our family had, there's no such word as can't.
Yeah.
So that was installed in us as children. It always, don't be so stupid, there's no such word as can't. So we were always made to try again and get help and solution find. We had to be quite independent because the parents worked a lot, and we grew up working. So, you know, we had good work ethics, we were brought up with manners. And my parents, I'm the youngest of two, and my sister had a different ride to me. So everything was quite disciplined with Helen. But when I arrived, it was sort of like, yay, just do as you like it. And my parents, it wasn't very helpful, but my parents always said, we don't care what you do as long as you're happy. So that didn't really give me a lot of guidance through school, because being happy was spending not a lot of time in school.
Yeah.
So, you know, so you can imagine what I did all the way through school. I never really cared, Charles, about work, because my dad used to be a test driver for a motor company, and I grew up wanting to be a mechanic. I could strip a car down when I was a kid. You know, I loved it. I just loved getting greasy. And so I thought, I don't need any qualifications. You know, in the 80s, in those days, if you knew what you were doing, they'd give you a job. So that was my intention when I left school. Through a lot of chauvinistic experiences, I didn't go into car mechanics because I was a 15-year-old girl when I went into work experience, and it was awful.
Yeah.
I got the mickey taken out of me for 2 weeks, and that basically squashed my dream of becoming a car mechanic. I said to my dad, I'm not going into that environment, Dad. I'm not fighting every day of my life to prove that I'm better than them at what they do.
Yeah.
So I became a secretary, which I hated. Worked for Marconi Radar.
Yeah.
And then I was on the back of my mate's motorbike when I was 17 years old, and we crashed at around about 100 miles an hour. And he got thrown off the bike. Unfortunately for me, I got smashed into everything. And the result was fractured skull, what they call a compression fracture of T4, T5, T6, spinal cord lesion at T6, broken ribs, punctured lung, dead on the road. So 8-month recovery in hospital, being told I'd never walk again, and stubbornly walked out on crutches 8 months later.
Brilliant.
So that was like an intro into belief systems, Charlie. The hospital said to me, you know, you've done X, Y, Z, you won't move again, you're paralysed. But my head had this weird thing that was like, no, you're all right, you'll be fine. And that still does now, you know, I still feel like I'm able-bodied when I wake up in the morning and then trip over my feet. And
Well, you have been to the Olympics.
Yes, well, I always say it's a random occurrence in my life. So after I'd done about 10 years of rehab, my own rehab of making myself, you know, fit, and then just thought, oh, you know, I'm just going to get on with life now. And a friend introduced me to wheelchair basketball. And I was like, wheelchair what? How do you play basketball in a wheelchair? I thought he was joking.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, come along, have a look. You know, just humour me. You'll love it, Wend. Because I'm a bit rough. I like, you know, physical sports. And when I turned up, it was quite funny. They put me in a chair with no anti-tip bar. So if you leant back, this chair would flip over. And I sat there and I was watching all these lads like roaring about, you know, shooting hoops. And I was thinking, oh, this looks so easy. You know, I went to push the chair, jammed my fingers in the wheels. Someone passed me a ball, it hit me in the face. You know, I couldn't dribble the ball. It had just hit the chair and disappear off. So the first night, Charlie, I spent literally chasing a ball round the sports hall, trying to pick it up, falling backwards out my chair and smacking my head on the floor. I couldn't shoot. You know, I got hit in the face more times than I can count with a ball. But the thing that hurt the most was this.
Yeah.
I laughed
So much.
3 hours. And
Well,
I
was laughing just now.
Yeah.
It was in a nice way, not in a horrible way. I was imagining you trying to chase the ball around a basketball in a wheelchair without the stabiliser to stop you falling.
Oh, Charlie, it was hysterical. We got to the point where every time you go and lean back, you're thinking, oh, God, you hit your elbows and you've done your head a few times, you learn, you think this is going to hurt when I go down.
Yeah.
And I'm not short at coming forwards, if you know what I mean. So I'd be like, yeah, I can get stuck in, crash, bang, ow, that hurt.
Yeah.
You know. And then I ended up, within 3 months, I was in the Great Britain women's team, and within 14 months at a Paralympic Games. So it just shows if you put your mind to something. You know.
And one other thing is, because you learned by your mistakes, you could get into the Olympics. If health and safety had been there, you'd have learned nothing.
No, exactly. Yeah, I learned through fear.
Learn through fear and learn by your mistakes. And then suddenly you're at the Olympics representing United Kingdom.
Yeah, which was, I still, when I look back on it, I just think these people were mental to take me in the first place, because I didn't understand all the rules. By the time I'd got there, I'd been, I'd never played basketball in my life. I was a netball player at school. So it takes so long to learn all the rules and the techniques. And so, yeah, I was really privileged. And it's such a great experience. And I'll tell you what it did do, though. It opened my eyes up to 2 areas of life. One was disability.
Yeah.
So it made me so grateful that I could move, because I met people who play sport with their mouths, you know. They play blind football. I mean, how on earth do you play blind football? And they're just as good as what you see in the Premiership. It was just unreal. And through hospital, I met a lot of people who lost the use of their arms and stuff like that. You know, they're never going to hug anyone again or hold a cup of tea and it just made me think, I am so lucky to be where I am and be able to do what I do. So it really humbled me.
One of the most touching things I've ever seen was Andrea Bocelli, who's one of my favourite musicians. When he was introduced to, I forget which woman it was, who was a singer, and he just ran his fingers down her face. And I just found that so touching, you know, that he can't see what she's like, he can hear her, but he just wanted to feel her face. And that was just a moving moment. And God gives you certain senses. If you lose one sense, which is sight, your ears are better, your touch is better, your other senses make up for it.
Yeah, that's the same with the brain, isn't it, as well? You know, we know that if a certain part of the brain stops working, you can actually train another part to take over. Yeah. This is a fascinating bit of kit, it really is. And we don't know the half of the power of it.
You just said we don't know the half. I spoke to a brain surgeon who told me the other day that we know less than 5% of what the brain can do in the 21st century.
Yeah.
We're in the 21st century, and he said, Charlie, I promise you, we know less than 5% now as to about how the brain works. And we think, we know only half about a brain. We don't. We've got absolutely no concept at this moment in time of how the brain
Of
works.
the power of it. I mean, the stuff I'm doing at the moment, I've learned, I think over the last, I'm constantly on the search, Charlie, for what can help me. My only goal in life is to run again.
Yeah.
I wake up and I can feel myself sprinting. I still feel it in my body. And I now understand over the last 3 years, I've been studying, I got introduced to the work of Greg Braden, Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton.
Yeah.
And the Joe Dispenza stuff is just amazing because he did something similar to me. And now I'm just getting to grips with how to get this thing to override what's happened in the body. And it's fascinating. I'm using virtual reality as well.
If you connect this thing to spirituality as well, I saw something that blew my mind. I didn't think it was possible. And then I had to work it out myself. And that was in a church in South Wales. I'm not religious, but I believe I was born and brought up religious in the Plymouth Brethren, but I went the opposite way, and then I wanted to find out truth, and then I connected to spirituality against religion. And I went to one particular church called the King's Church in Newport, South Wales. And there was a pastor there, and I liked him because I liked his name, Reinhard Bonnke. I thought, what a great name. Sadly, he died at the end of last year.
Oh, bless.
He was German, but he had a congregation of 100,000 people twice a day on Sunday in Africa. And the reason he had a massive following is he had healing hands.
Right.
And I was like, oh, yeah, of course you do, mate. I'll be honest with you. I was like, yeah, right. Anyway, he's got this person. There was a congregation was too big to have at the church. So they had it at the sports centre. It was packed. And he's got this kid in a wheelchair that's been in a wheelchair since birth, paralysed from the waist down. I don't know if it was staged. I would like to think it wasn't. But he's gone to this kid, and it wasn't. The kid was in the 20s now, 20s or 25, 30, whatever. And laid his hands on his knees and prayed, and then got his hands and lifted him up, and he walked. And I was like, I got up and walked out. I'll be honest with you. I got up and walked out. It freaked me right out. I was like, that's a load of bollocks, that is. I was completely like, what's going on? And then I sat and thought about it, and I thought, right, let's go back to the foundations. I believe that God made man and woman. I believe that. So if you've got a washing machine that's made by Hot Point and it breaks down, you take it back to Hot Point and they fix it.
Yeah.
So if Reinhard Bonnke's connected to God, you say to Reinhard, mate, could you tell God he fucked this one up? Could you get him to sort it out? That's how I deal with it, Wendy.
Yeah.
And I think, well, if Reinhardt's got his connection to God, if he has, he can say, look, could you sort this one out? Maybe you made him in a bit of a hurry.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just sort him out. Because I look at it in a very simple way. Because I'm a simple lad. That I look at things simple. I try and deconstruct it so I understand it.
Yeah.
My parents told me when I was at school, I didn't need to concentrate because the end of the world was coming. So I didn't need all that information. So I didn't really concentrate at school. A lot went right over the top of my head. So I've had to learn a lot since.
I call that giraffe's fart syndrome.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's how I deal with it. And I often think now with somebody like you, if you can connect to the spiritual side and just say, look, maybe he can't just go magically, Wendy, there's your leg back. He can say, maybe Wendy, we can guide you down this line. And if you do this, this, and this will help you regenerate.
Yeah.
It's not suddenly laying hands on and suddenly Wendy gets up and runs out of the house and chases a bloke down the road. That's not quite how it always works. But maybe he can guide you in the way to say, fine, why don't you look in this area? These people might be able to help you. This is just my thought process.
Yeah, I feel that's where I've been guided, Charlie, as well. So I've always been open to spiritual aspects. You know, I grew up, we were next to a Christian church. We were sent to church as children. The church was my favourite place to go. If I was ever upset, I'd go and sit in the graveyard. Sounds a bit weird, but I'd find it very comforting.
Yeah.
And, you know, I used to go and talk to my passed over relatives. I'd always have a good chat with Granny and, you know, go and sit by her grave. So I've always had that type of connection. And then I think I sort of lost it for a while, maybe 15-year period, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And then what's happened over probably the last 7 or 8 years, I've been reconnecting in just to understanding more about the energy field.
Yeah.
So, you know, the collective consciousness, universal energy, and just reconnecting into that space through meditation and different practices. And I found the more I connect in, the more people wander into my environment that have something that, you know, either I benefit them or they benefit me in some way. It's a really nice experience.
When you connect with the right people, you can feel it immediately, instantaneously. Um, it's a radiation thing.
Yeah.
They make you radiate, you make them radiate. But also when you go into a negative environment, you can feel it's dark.
Like the old mood hoovers.
Yeah,
They just
exactly.
suck the energy out of the space,
Completely.
don't they? Yeah.
Completely. And you know, when you very often, if you're at a wedding or something, and you've got all the different members of all the different families,
Yeah.
somebody walks in and changes the atmosphere. Sometimes for the positive, sometimes for the negative, and you can feel it change.
One of my old trainers, she used to say, do you light the room up when you walk in or when you walk out?
Yeah, exactly right.
And
exactly right.
that always rang true with me. It was like, yeah, I know so many people that when they walk in, you just feel it go.
Yeah, exactly.
Or when they walk
right.
in, it's like, hey, they're here.
Yeah. And there's so many people I've met in my life, when they walk into a room, the whole room comes alive, you know.
Yeah.
They bring out the best in everybody. And you're absolutely right. You have some that walk in and you're just like, yeah, feels like the Undertaker.
Yeah, that's one thing I like about one of the jobs I do, because I teach people about their human system and their ownership. So awareness first, become aware of how you operate, and then own it.
Yeah.
When you own it, you become more powerful. But you can empower others so easily just with a smile, you know, with your body language. There's so many things you can do to just empower other people.
That's a very important point, because that points up something else I've been trying to tell people about our history. Our history in England is not the best.
No.
We're fairly evil when it comes to the way that we've done things around the world. But unless you accept our history, you'll never move on. You have to address it and accept it and understand it. Sticking it under the carpet and thinking it will go away, that's not constructive at all.
No.
Because it will always come back out again. You need to face up to what's happened, as you just said there, facing up to what's happened, accepting what's happened, and then finding a plan to move forward.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, if you think about, without going into history, like you say, you know, I think we've invaded every other country on the planet, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah.
At some point. You know,
we've robbed them blind.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is just, you know, it's not going, oh, you know, I'm British, poor me, let's ignore it, but that didn't happen. It is like, no, actually, that really did happen. What can we learn from that to move forward so that doesn't happen again?
Well, I use the analogy so many times in my videos about coming to a T-junction.
Yeah.
If you come there and just sit still, you go nowhere. But if you go left and it's wrong, and you have the bottle to turn around and come back, then you become a good person.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's just, that's everything I do in life or business. I'll tell you one thing I was taught when I was younger. Honesty is the best policy. You know, we've got all these sayings. My granddad always used to say to me, if you're going to be a liar, you've got to have a good memory.
Yeah,
now, exactly. I've got a terrible memory. So it was always easier to tell the truth. And what I've done is I've learned over the years to tell the truth in a way that doesn't offend, or people don't take offense to it, if that makes sense. Because obviously I can't offend anybody. That's their map of reality that creates it.
Sure.
But it is now, I would prefer, like, even little things, like if someone's called me and I've gone, oh, not now, and put it down. When I phone them back, I go, I really wasn't in the mood to take a call this morning. I saw you were calling. Yeah. So I won't go, oh, I've just seen I've got a missed call. So even those little white lies now, I just think there's no need for them. It's just total honesty. It saves all the aggro, and then you don't have to try and remember what you were telling people last week.
Exactly. No, and honestly, you're right. Like my naughty honesty gets me into trouble when I've used it before. When women say, "Does this dress make me look fat?" He says, "Nothing wrong with the dress, sweetheart. It's your backside that makes you look fat. The dress is fine." Yeah, but then they just look at you and burst out laughing.
Yeah.
Because they know it's their backside that makes them look fat. And the fact that Charlie told them it wasn't supposed to, but look, there's ways to tell the truth.
Yes.
And you don't want to offend people in a horrible way.
No.
And you're absolutely right that honesty is the best policy. And sometimes I'm not very tactful at times, sometimes. But then people go, well, that's just Charlie, you know, that's how he is. My daughter.
I always say to people, Charlie, now when someone will say, Wendy, can I have your opinion on this? I always say, now, are you sure you want my opinion?
Exactly.
Like, be really sure before you ask for my opinion. They'll go, no, 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 I really want it. And I go, right, now just remember, this is just an opinion.
Yeah.
And opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one.
Exactly
so,
right.
Mine's not really relevant to you. If you would like it, though, I will give it to you. Brace yourself.
Yeah. No, I've got a lot of friends who look at me and they go, well, what do you think? No, Charlie, I don't. Let's leave it there. Because they know that I'll be brutal with them and I'll tell them the truth. And yeah, it does get me into trouble. It gets people upset. But you're better off telling people the truth. And I think, even though he's a pain in the arse, Simon Cowell, when he tells people they're useless when they're singers at an early stage, rather than blow smoke up their arse and get them further up the ladder when they're absolutely crap, I think is a good thing. Or even though sometimes he gets above himself, you're far better off telling people at an early stage, look, your mother who tells you you're wonderful is absolutely tone deaf.
Yeah. And give them some, you know, I always work in, because of the coaching environment I grew up in at school, my teachers, and if they're watching this, my games teachers, I love you guys, because you really, really did install some great stuff in me and it really has helped. They used to encourage you when you were getting it right. And if you got it wrong, there was none of that, you've got it wrong, you're doing that wrong. It was, Wendy, that's not working. If you do it like this, you might find you get a better result.
Well,
and then I'd have another go and have another go. And then when I got it right, they'd go, that's it. How did that one feel? Yeah. And so it's always, how can you give people constructive criticism so they can find a solution themselves? Because if I'm telling you how to do something, you know, it's not going to help. How can I feed someone information so on the inside of them they can make sense of it themselves to get a better result? Well, or decide that it's a pointless endeavour and change.
Yeah, if you've got a good coach, correction and praise. So that when they do it wrong, correct them, but when they get it right, make sure you tell them. And this is a critical thing in life. And even my wife, sometimes I have to give her a bit of a slap because she'll walk out and go, you look absolutely beautiful, sweetheart. And she go, well, didn't I look beautiful yesterday? I went, I didn't say anything about yesterday. I just said you look beautiful. And sometimes people try and twist it to something else. I said, no, that's not what I said. I said, you look beautiful.
It's making the meaning, isn't it? We're all meaning-making machines and we all have our own little internal maps of reality.
Of course we do.
And we delete, distort and generalise information all day to fit that map. Yeah. So sometimes you will manipulate someone else's conversation just so it fits in with your...
I've had somebody manipulate me, and this is quite important that I get this out there, because I had somebody manipulate something about me a week or so ago. There's a lovely picture of me with my grandson, Alessandro, in Florida, in Disneyland.
Yeah.
And that picture's on my Facebook. And it's a picture I treasure because he is my grandson. He's the son, Alessandro, of Lee, the son who I lost. So he holds a very special place in my heart. He was 18 months old when his daddy died. He never knew his daddy. And it's very, very sad. When he comes, he just hangs on to me. And if we go to the cemetery, he cries and cries and cries. And it's a time of grieving. Yeah, he's a beautiful, beautiful young man. And somebody has taken that picture and they've edited it and put Make-A-Wish Foundation underneath. Now that's fine, because for 25 years I've been donating to Make-A-Wish Foundation in the United Kingdom. Yeah. And also I used to take children for rides in my flash cars of the Ferraris and Lamborghinis around the Castle Combe racetrack as in their last year of their life. So yes, I am connected to Make-A-Wish. And then suddenly they put the Clinton Foundation next to Make-A-Wish, which is completely doctored. But Make-A-Wish Foundation in the United Kingdom have never done any work with the Clinton Foundation. But the Clinton Foundation have done work with Make-A-Wish in America.
Oh, okay.
So somebody's put it all together as a mishmash that I'm working with Hillary Clinton Foundation. Complete and utter lie. Complete and utter lie. I work with the Make-A-Wish Foundation in the United Kingdom in London.
That's a good, and that on the clarification of things that you see as well. I don't know about you, but I was brought up to believe nothing of what I see. Yeah. And only half of what I hear. Correct. And then you go and do the research. Correct. And you go and find out exactly what is going on. So whatever you see, don't believe it. Not a thing, because it's all manufactured anyway. Whatever you hear, only believe half of it, and then go do the groundwork.
There's also a very important fact there as well about the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation actually donated some money to Make-A-Wish Foundation in the States, who built a hospital in Disneyland for quadriplegics and paraplegics with all the facilities. So the Clinton Foundation may well be evil, but there are parts of it they've done good. They couldn't just do evil, otherwise they'd be completely blown out of the water a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's the same with all of those ones, isn't it? You know, when we look at these philanthropists that are saving the planet at the moment with their mass vaccination plan. It's like one side of it is, right, let's exterminate the majority of people on this planet, and then the other side of it is, I'm going to put some wells in and build some sanitation for you as well while we're at it. You know, so like you say, there's always two sides to it.
There's always two sides. I remember, many years ago, I was asked by a young lady, a friend of mine, who was doing a charity event, and she wanted to raise some money for this charity.
Yeah.
She said to me, can you help me, because you're really good at this sort of stuff, because you do a lot of work for charity. And I said, well, how much do you want to raise? And she said, I'd like to raise about 50,000. I said, well, that's not really going to work. When I get involved in charities, they raise a lot of money as long as the cause is right. She said, well, what do you think we could raise? I said, well, I would look at least $250,000 to $500,000 that we could raise from a charity dinner. She said, well, how are we going to do that? I said, well, I'll help you and guide you. And then she's going through her planning. I've given her a little bit of guidance. And then she's got a list of people as special guests, and there's local businesses, local councils, local this, local that. And I said, they're all very good, but if you're looking for charity, people with charity, you want people who've got high net worth. And I said, without being, this is 20 years ago.
Right.
I said, without being too naughty, you want a couple of drug dealers in there. And I know a couple. Then you want the chief of police and one of the judges.
Yeah.
To give it a bit, So I'm not going to say who they were or which city we were in, but two of the big boys were there. One of them, I don't know where he was from, but he was wearing a kilt.
Scotland, maybe.
Maybe. So you've got the two of them. Anyway, you're dealing with huge egos.
Yeah.
They outbid each other virtually all night on everything that we got together. We got some very good prizes from some of my good contacts. And they raised a whole load of money. And it was interesting to watch the policeman's face and the judge's face. It was almost like the next time I see you two boys in court, I'm going to be a bit more lenient with you because you're doing some good work.
Yeah.
And you could see, and I said, look, just see how that works. And then afterwards, they were actually all communicating together. And it was almost like they actually did know each other. They probably did.
Yeah.
But we raised an awful lot of money that night for a very good cause.
Well, if I'm ever wanting to do charity dinners, then Charlie,
you have to look, you forget 3-dimensional. You have to be 5-dimensional and more. You have to look outside the box.
Yeah.
And you have to be guided in the right way. And there's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of things that can be done that are outside of the norm.
Yeah.
When it comes to raising money, everybody thinks, oh, I go around with my little box like the Salvation Army in the 60s, etc. But we've moved on from that, and there's so much more with the internet nowadays. I've avoided being monetized, and the whole way through this, and we've got 135,000 or more subscribers. We've got over 10 million views, and I was told, oh, you could be earning this and this and this, and I said, well, I'm not doing it for that reason. I'm doing it to get the message out there.
Yeah, raise the awareness and help people out a little bit by sharing stories and information.
But we got approached yesterday and the day before by somebody who wants to do some work with us. And I said, that's fine. And he said, well, we'll monetize this part. And I said, look, if you're going to monetize it, I have no problem, but I don't want anything myself.
Yeah.
It goes to the people that are behind the scenes that are running it. And then the rest of it you can give to Justin for his future.
We're quite similar on that tip, maybe not at the same financial scales, but the book I wrote behind me, there's many reasons behind it. It's a personal development book, basically. It's like sitting down and having a performance coaching session with me. But the backing behind it was I meet so many people who can't afford my services on the therapy side of stuff. And I thought, you know what, I'm not able to work for nothing all week because I need to pay my bills.
Yeah.
What can I do? And I thought, right, I'll write a book. All of the money that comes in from that book, I bank it up in one account, and then when I have enough, I run sessions for people with no cash.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Simple as that. Nice give back.
That it's humanity. It's humanitarian. It's what's right. Yes, we all have to pay. I have to pay my bills. It's exactly the same. And there are things that have to be covered first, but it's when you start spending it on things that you shouldn't be, or just a self gratification, like my old days. And I had plenty of years gratifying myself on crazy nights out, etc., etc., etc. I thought nothing of going to Nicky Beach and spending 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 euros on lunch and wine and champagne and partying, what have you. Those days are over. Those days are gone. I still love going there for lunch with my family, but the excesses are completely gone. And it's probably because I'm 60. My body won't take it anymore.
I think it's the same here, though. I tell you what I also think it is as well, Charlie, is when you become more comfortable with yourself on the inside. So I've done so much work on the inside that now, stuff doesn't make me happy. I make me happy.
You can see that you're good on the inside because you've got a beautiful smile on the outside, and that comes from inside.
Yeah, it's just when you find that, stop looking for these external things and scrabbling around out there. When you get to that realization that actually no one or nothing can make me happy.
Yeah.
It's this system that it starts from, and then when you're happy on the inside, it tends to just, like you say, radiate out, and things are okay anyway.
Of course they are, and it has so much to do with diet. What you put in the air is
gut health. I have a friend who specialises in gut health, and I didn't realise, because obviously I work a lot with heart math.
Yeah.
So the brain, the heart's intuition, and the brain in the heart, and then obviously the brain and the system. But when she said to me, do you know that a lot of your emotions are actually regulated through the stomach as well? I was like, actually, I only found this out about 5 years ago. I was like, no, I didn't realise that. I've always eaten well anyway, because I've considered myself an athlete, and I like nice food.
Yeah.
I do like a treat every now and then, but to be honest, I've not really got a sweet tooth. And there's not really anything. I don't eat Chineses and stuff like that. I like cooking, Charlie. So I take joy in going, body, what do you want to eat? And then making random dinners to fulfill it.
Somebody made a very interesting point to me, and I haven't thought it through properly yet. She said it was a medical health doctor.
Right.
She said, if you're eating an animal that plods around a field like a cow, like a sheep, when you finish eating that food, you'll feel like they are plodding around. Whereas if you eat a piece of fish that's been whizzing around, you feel lighter inside you. And I thought that's such a simple way to put it.
That is I've not thought about it like that. Yeah, that would make sense, because I rarely eat meat now. Every now and then I just get like, I get literally obsessed. I'll get like ribeye steak in my head or something.
Yeah.
I cannot get rid of it. And it's like, right, for some reason, there's obviously something in it that I need. So I do give in, but it's quite rare.
Yeah.
The majority of time I do eat, I'm pretty much vegetarian now with fish and shellfish. I love shellfish.
No, my wife is super healthy, so it's salads and fish and what have you, lots and lots of salads. But I'm like you, every now and then I'll get a craving for a fillet steak with béarnaise sauce and whatever, and afterwards you just go, ugh.
Oh, that's it, yeah. But then I'm satisfied for months again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's not something that's done weekly. It literally is just a one-off every now and then. And I always think, if the body's telling me it wants it, there's something in there that it wants.
Yeah. It's also interesting, you've been rehabilitating many, many people over the last few years, haven't you?
Yeah, I've probably I was trying to work this out the other day. I've worked with between 700 and 800 people.
Wow.
Over the last 6 or so years with PTSD and trauma rehabilitation. And the reason I got into that, I had a lot of issues myself with suicidal thoughts and depression and some other bits. And the chap who developed this particular system, he wanted me to become a trainer with him.
Okay.
And I said, look, I've got no idea what it does, and I can't train something that I don't know about.
Sure.
So he said, have you got anything? I used to be so angry, Charlie, right? If I dropped a cup, I'd have a meltdown. The whole day was finished. I'd be hitting my legs, self-harming, do you know what I mean? Screaming and shouting. I was Mrs. Angry. And he said to me, have you got anything that your NLP has never touched? And I thought, yeah, I've got a big one. I'll give him the big guns. I mean, yeah, suicidal thoughts. And he said, no problem. And I thought, yeah, I've heard this before. I'm an EFT practitioner. I've done all of that, and I just thought nothing has ever permanently shifted it. So he did a session with me, and I closed my eyes and I was just following instructions. It was really simple, changing some colours and language and bits and pieces on stuff. And when I opened my eyes, he said, now think about killing yourself. I was going all around my head. And it's like,
couldn't find it.
this is weird. Like, I was going, that's weird, right? So is that permanent then? How long does this last? And he's like, no, you're done. We've recoded the information. I was like, this is really odd.
It'll last until you kill yourself.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So anyway, he said, I'll speak to you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it is. Now, I want you to realise this is the power of this stuff.
Yeah.
For probably nearly 20 years, every morning of my life, I had got up and my first thought was, enough. I just want to stick a bullet through my head. And I'd have to sit on the edge of my bed and I'd go, right, I love my dog, I love my house, I love my family. My parents would be gutted if I did this. And I'd go through this weird loop every morning and like, come on, sort your life out, Wendy, you're all right, you can do this. And then I'd get myself in a good state and I'd go again. But
Yeah.
that was every single morning for 20 years without fail. When he did this session with me, I didn't even notice, right? So for 2 weeks, I didn't notice that I was getting out of bed, having a coffee, taking the dog out, you know, doing some exercise. When he phoned me up and said, how many times have you thought about killing yourself over the last 2 weeks? I was like,
I didn't thought about it.
Not even thought about not thinking about it. And I literally was in shock because it was like, how can that work? I was so confused because I'd not even thought about it because it changes in the moment. And it was like, right, train me now because I want to know this stuff.
Do you know what though? It's so simple when you think about it. How many times in your life have you gone to do something and then forgotten, and you go around your head thinking, what was it? Where? And you just can't. If it's that simple to forget that, if somebody has the skill set to be able to make you
how he developed the process is just fascinating. It really is. But he's literally worked out how we code information as it comes in and store it.
Yeah.
And how you can change the storage, like the barcodes on it.
Yeah.
And if you change the barcode, you can never be triggered back into that type of experience.
Yeah.
I remember, this is the bit that really, really shocked me. I walked outside, I had a cup of coffee, tripped over my doorstep, as I normally do, threw the coffee across the front lawn. Now, normally, Charlie, that would be meltdown, right? And I remember chuckling to myself and going, oh, I need a new coffee now. It was only by the time I got back to my coffee machine, I went, oh my God.
Yeah.
I've not had a meltdown.
Beautiful.
And then I worked with the funniest one. I just got to tell you the funniest one. Once I'd learnt it, he literally said to me, here's all the stuff, just go away and experiment with people.
Yeah.
And then, you know, so away I went, and I'd get people to come round. I had a chap who was 70 years old. He'd not driven in fog for 50 years because he got lost on the A12. And he come round to me to see if I could help him out with his fog phobia, right? Yeah. So he sat down. I said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to read through something. I said, I just want you to internally follow the instructions. So I've got my bit of paper. I'm not even calibrating him by looking at him. I'm just literally reading stuff and going back. And I took him through the process. And afterwards I said, how do you feel about driving in fog now? He went, well, why wouldn't I want to drive in fog? I said, well, because for 50 years, you've not driven in fog. And he said, well, that's a bit stupid, isn't it, really? And it was just like, it really made me chuckle. Anyway, we couldn't test it until there was fog.
Yeah.
So what happened was, 3 weeks later, lots of fog. His wife phoned me up and said, Wendy, I think we've got a problem. And I was thinking, oh no, what have I done? You know, when you get that, you just think, oh no, I've broken someone. What's happened?
Yeah.
And she said, a bit of a problem. I said, what's the problem? She said, well, he's gone to Whittam, which means he's got to go on the A12 to get a Chinese. And I was like, well, how's that a problem? She said, have you looked outside?
Foggy.
And I looked outside and it was foggy. Yeah, it was foggy. So I went round to see him the next day. I said, how did it go going to get your Chinese last night? And he was literally like, it was fine. I said, it was foggy. He went, and?
Yeah.
I said, you've not driven. I said, did what I did with you, did that work then? He went, well, I don't really know. He said, but after the session, I just thought, how stupid that I haven't.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
that is so similar mentally to Justin, our little boy. You have to understand that Mummy was not only an international gymnast for her country for 10 years,
right?
She was also in the circus for 10 years after that. Then after that, she was in shows in South Korea, shows in southern Spain. Portugal, Germany. She's been in shows all her life. So she's a gymnast. She's also a phenomenal cabaret dancer, etc. So in her DNA, she's very good at gymnastics and dance.
Yeah.
Justin, self-taught. Nothing from mummy.
Nothing to do
Nothing
with
from mummy at all. Self-taught me. And mummy's gone, but you have my DNA. I carried you for 9 months. I made you. Self-taught.
Yeah. It's all me. It's all my DNA.
Exactly. That's like him. Well, yeah, what you said was okay, but I could drive in the fog.
Yeah, why wouldn't I? It's only been 50 years.
Exactly. No, not thank you, Wendy.
No, it was funny though. That was the funniest one, and that made me like think, right, this stuff is powerful. And then from there, I mean, the other extreme of it is I've worked with a lot of people that have been through, like, I mean, we're talking serious trauma that I probably couldn't mention on here. Yeah. But one in particular was a police officer who he'd been in the force for 14 years. He'd seen everything.
Yeah.
And he got no problems until he witnessed a house fire, and he had to help remove all the, everybody died, a whole family. He had to take the bodies out of the house and go with them to the hospital, then take their clothing. Yeah. Totally did him. He ended up with PTSD, massive anxiety, loads of stuff, started becoming agoraphobic and stuff. Yeah. He had, I think it was 4 years of therapy in the police first, with all the trim processes and that. And then it got to the point where he was having so many meltdowns, he left the police. Yeah. Yeah. And then it was another couple of years until someone, I'm like the person, when you've done everything, my name will pop up somewhere and someone will go, just phone Wendy. Yeah. And he phoned me up and said, I've been told to phone you. And I went, okay, no worries. Like when they mention someone's name, I go, I know why you phoned me. Yeah. And I said, right, if you come over now, I'll sort this out for you. So he came over, and all it is what we call an episodic memory. Yeah. It was one memory that was creating a loop. Yeah. And traumatizing him. All I did was literally, he couldn't have fire in his house, no gas, no candles. He couldn't watch fire on the telly. He couldn't go out on his own. He'd got to the point where his life was having a meltdown. Yeah. And I did one session, did the episodic on him. Yeah. Cleared up that memory. He went straight home and sat down and watched London's Burning with his wife. He phoned me the next day. He's like, I can't believe this. He said, I was watching London's Burning on the TV last night. Yeah. And that was just an undoable. But just something so simple, Charlie, can just give someone their life back.
Well, I often say to people in life, success isn't one thing. It's getting lots of little things right. And when you get a breakdown like these people have, it's not one big thing. It's one little thing that needs to be corrected. Then everything else corrects itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as much as what you think the majority of the time.
If you can put one bit right, then the rest suddenly. And the classic case is Christmas tree lights. One light bulb goes and the rest stop working.
Yeah. You know what? That's a really good analogy. That is a really good analogy, yeah.
And you put that one right, and then they all come alive again. You go,
and that's it, yeah.
It's that simple. It might have even just come slightly unscrewed. The bulb might be okay. It's just come unscrewed, so you just type, oh, now they all work.
Yeah. You know, that's a really, I like that. I'm good. Can I steal that? That's a stolen analogy.
Given to you as a gift.
Thank you very much.
With love.
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. But we'll have to do this again, because these are so positive for people. And it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Wendy. It really has, because you're such a positive soul, and you can help people with so much stuff. And there are a lot of people suffering right now.
Oh, at the moment, you know, there is. The suicide rate apparently, Charlie, has gone up by 65% already this year.
Suicide will kill more people than COVID-19, I promise you.
And there's stuff we can do. I've just been working with someone who, she thought she was like dropping into clinical depression. And it's like, no, you've just not been working.
Sure.
So all we need to do is put you in some processes so you're hitting your values throughout the day, because she wasn't feeling the value of her purpose of work. She's a nurse. And it was like, no, we just put you in a little process. So there's so many simple things, Charlie, isn't there, that people can do to just fulfill their values. Because if you're fulfilling your values, then you're finding your purpose, and then you'll feel better throughout the day. But
well, I've found my purpose, and that's being stuck in my office so my wife doesn't kill me.
I was going to say, your purpose sat in the sunshine by the company. Exactly. I'm quite envious. I've got sunshine envy today.
Yeah, you certainly have. And thank you so much, Wendy. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Oh, my absolute pleasure, Charlie. It's lovely to meet you. And yes, let's do this again, because I'm sure there's a lot more we can talk about.
Tons.
Hi, it's Justin, and I hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.